Hello everybody, I am going to be coming at you from weird angles throughout this video because I never film here anymore, and that's mainly just because of the angle here. But I'm going to be giving you guys an unhaul, and so you're gonna have to see my shelves for that. So I'm going to, where possible, be in screen, but a lot of times I won't be because I'm gonna try and get a little more of a close-up on the different shelves that I'm tackling throughout this video. So I haven't done an unhaul in quite a while. I have been like setting aside books for unhauls for a while, but I actually really don't know which ones are set aside and which ones aren't. So we're basically just going to be talking about the ones that I have on these shelves that I'm going to be removing today. So I have quite a few books that need to make it onto these shelves, and I also just want a cleanse, because a lot of times I've been saying like, you know what, I still have space on these shelves, so there's no real need for me to like remove stuff from it, because you know, like, that's not my priority at this point in time. You know, as long as I have space, I don't need to get rid of some of these. But now I'm like, you know what, let's get rid of them. I'm sure I can fill up the space, because my fear is kind of like, what if I have nothing left and like the shelf's gonna look all empty? But that is not gonna happen. I'm pretty sure that that won't be the case. I can have some of the vertical stacks moved horizontally if need be. So let's just tackle it. The top shelf, which is barely in view, is a non-fiction shelf, and it's a shelf that I will not be tackling because I have barely looked at any of those. And so if we're gonna do like a brutal cleanse, I guess a lot of those could actually go, but we are not tackling the non-fiction in this point in time. So we'll be starting off with the classics shelf. So I have two shelves of classics, and we'll be tackling them because I kind of had a look at these shelves a little bit earlier as well, and there's some like illogical stuff to my organizing here. So we'll have to kind of move stuff around in here, because there are Charles Dickens on both levels of this, for example. There are Jane Austens on both levels of this, so these need to be restructured in any case if nothing else were to be happening. That's definitely something needs to be tackled. Alright, so on this shelf, first of all, we've got 4 Virago Modern Classics. They are 3 Daphne du Maurier's and 1 Elizabeth von Arnim. They are not moving. I really enjoyed these ones. And so this shelf is actually mainly going to stay exactly as it is at the moment, because it has quite a lot of favorites on it, but I will be doing some reorganizing here. So To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee is also staying here. This very short one, How Much Land Does a Man Need by Tolstoy. I did enjoy it, but it's super tiny. It is going to make zero impact on this shelf because it's the tiniest thing on there. And then we have 2 editions of A Christmas Carol, definitely staying. So this is like a gorgeous edition of it. And then we also have the reproduction of the original Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol that I bought in the Charles Dickens Museum in London. So that ain't leaving. Then we've got Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, that is staying, but this massive boy, Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens, I did try to read it, I did not enjoy it, and I was not willing to give up on it, because I was just like, maybe I just read too many Charles Dickens all at once, and just I'm like maybe a little bit tired of it at this point in time. But if I try it again at a later stage, I might fall back into my love for Charles Dickens. But honestly, these editions are super cheap. If I were to one day reread Nicholas Nickleby for that reason, I can get it through the library, I can buy it on my e-reader, and if then by any fortune I end up really loving it, I can always repurchase it at that point. I don't need to hang on to this like cheap edition of it just to have it there for in case I might ever change my mind. Hard Times by Charles Dickens is the book that we needed to read for university. Did not love it at the moment, but now upon reread I enjoyed it. It was one of my favorites Dickens, so I'm keeping it. The Old Curiosity Shop, in principle I guess this is like on my TBR, because I actually don't think I've read it, or like I've read maybe like a chapter and then I wasn't in the mood, and so I guess in principle it's a TBR book. But yeah, I'm definitely taking a break from Dickens at the moment, because the last few times that I was reading Dickens I wasn't really enjoying it all that much. Maybe because, you know, like he writes very similar stuff, and so maybe I've just read too much of his work. So I'm taking a Dickens break. I'm not putting it officially on the TBR, it's just there in the collection. Then I guess we will do our rearranging here, because I have like 4 more Dickens down here that I'm going to be putting up there, which are another edition of the Christmas books, then A Tale of Two Cities, David Copperfield, and Great Expectations. And of course, Great Expectations does not fit, but we shall just be moving these 3 down, because there's some more moves that need to happen here. Let's temporarily put these with unhauls. They're definitely not getting unhauled. So, what are we adding to this shelf? So, next up, we are moving into Mary Shelley territory. So we've got Frankenstein and the Last Man by Mary Shelley, but I also have a special edition of Frankenstein. I have this slipcase edition of Frankenstein that, you know, you're not getting any beautiful video of any of my books here, because I just don't have the way to do it. So I have this edition of Frankenstein that is moving next to it. Maybe if I move the lighting to there, but I really don't have much space to put stuff over there. But I'm gonna have to try, because it is kind of bothering me that you're seeing so little of this. I don't think that made any difference. So the only way to kind of, unless I like really rewire where the power is coming from for that light, I need to I need to really like change where I've plugged everything in. So I cannot, so changing the angle of the camera, but like I have a sofa right at my feet here now. So this is why this is not actually the perfect setup for a YouTuber in any case, because my bookshelves are like, I am really standing literally in the space between my sofa and the bookshelves. So for the bottom shelves we'll also have a big issue. But so we have the Frankenstein edition, and then in that same edition I also have a copy of my favorite classic, which is Persuasion by Jane Austen. And that means that all of my copies of Persuasion, because I also have this nice paper cut edition, this beautiful edition, they can go over here on this shelf, which makes sense because here we have the Jane Austens. So Jane Austen, I have all of her work. Some I have in nicer editions, so I have like the annotated editions, but for the most I just have like cheap editions. But so yeah, none of those are leaving. We have removed 2 books already, right? So, because I'm starting to feel like we're not doing anything here, but we have removed books. Then, Norton anthologies. These are very thick anthologies that I will never in my life open again, but I use them for my studies, and as long as I don't need this space, I am going to keep them because they look impressive. Then we have Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth, staying. Sister Carrie by Theodore Dreiser, staying. The Great Gatsby, Mrs. Dalloway, Blake's collection of poetry, staying. All editions of the Bronte sisters in these beautiful, this beautiful series are staying. But then we have Peter Pan and Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens, this can go, and Lord of the Flies can go, especially this horrible edition of it. So that's 4 books removed so far. And then we have Bram Stoker's Dracula, which can also stay. I guess this Buddha can now protect these guys. So we have room here, and actually I do have a copy of War and Peace by Tolstoy, which I guess is lying in my bedroom, which will make up like at least this section still. So we have some room for some more classics on this shelf, which is good. Do I need classic space? Not really, I don't tend to buy a lot of classics, but oh right, I don't actually have that much space because we put aside some more. So, Les Miserables, Anna Karenina, and The Count of Monte Cristo can go back on here. And then this is a space that we will reserve for War and Peace. So, 2 shelves. We didn't do much with them. I knew that going into it. The classic shelves was pretty much safeguarded from the beginning. But, I mean, we made some progress at least. Next up, we have a shelf that is aesthetically pleasing. Hello. So this is the aesthetically pleasing shelf because this is all of the like printed edges turned in like different directions. But, you know, at one point the shelf only contained a few books that were turned like that. At this point the shelf is full, but you know, some of these books from the very get-go were books that I didn't really enjoy enough to keep a hold of, and now I feel like, you know what, maybe let's just eliminate the ones that I'm sure I don't want on here, or like that I'm sure that I have no interest in, I didn't enjoy them enough, so that we can keep on filling it with new books, and then, you know, like maybe some of the ones that are going to be maybes today can stay, but they will potentially be removed as well later stages. So the ones that I know for sure can go off of this is The Book Eaters by Sun Yi. I read this book. This is an Illumicrate book from the first time I had Illumicrate, because I first had Illumicrate for a few months and then I got rid of the subscription and then I resubscribed. But so didn't enjoy this one, so this one can go. Then I am going to hold on to this one, even though I like, not that you guys can actually see what I'm pointing to, especially since I'm now in the way of the light, I think. So this is The Earth Transformed by Peter Frankopan, a gorgeous spine. This is a non-fiction. I tried to get into it and I couldn't, but I also tried to get into it by listening to it. So maybe if I try to physically read it, it might go over better. Witch King by Martha Wells is also definitely on a sort of like maybe, because I want to give it another go because I want to like it, but I didn't. Then we have After the Forest by Kel Woods. I enjoyed this one decently enough, but it's definitely never one that I'm going to reread, and I don't need to keep it. Then the Jasad Air by Sarah Hashem. The spine is not really catching on to this. Is another one, Illumicrate book. Read it, enjoyed it, didn't love it. No, I think I didn't even like it all that much, right? If I remember correctly, like the character was really insufferable. And, you know, sometimes you can deal with an insufferable character, but in this book it really came to the detriment of my like experience with it. I really like, it really destroyed my experience with this book. Then we have Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, another one that didn't really work for me. And Feybound by Sarah L. Reefy. Unfortunately, I do like her other series, though the final book was a little bit of a letdown, but unfortunately Feybound never worked for me. Then we have Sister Blood Ink Scribe, that can stay. Some Desperate Glory can stay. Silver Blood Promise can definitely stay. Phoenix Keeper can stay, and Mistress of Lies can stay. So we've eliminated what, 4 or 5? 5 books from that shelf. So good job on that shelf. We have a little bit more wiggle room to add stuff to that. For example, the Dandelion Dynasty might make its way onto that shelf when I actually finish it. Okay, next shelf. Next shelf is going to be translated fiction. So let's tackle those. Alright, so this is just going to be an exercise of me getting more and more uncomfortable in order to be in frame. But so we have the shelf over here. The shelf is like for 2/3 of it filled with basically mainly Japanese translated fiction, though there is some Chinese translated fiction on there and some Korean translated fiction on there. And the other half is dedicated mainly to Spanish books. But so I have been thinking about this since having a first perusal of the shelves, and I think my conclusion is that I am going to get rid of all of my Haruki Murakamis except for Colorless Suzuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage. I enjoy Murakami, or I have enjoyed some Murakami. In recent years, his work hasn't really been for me anymore. I think Tsukuru Tezaki is an exception. It is different from his other works. It doesn't have the same sort of like vulgarity and sex scenes and all of that in it, and so I think that that one will still hold up for me, and it will just free up a lot of space if I ever want to reread a Murakami. They are definitely available in the library to me. I don't need to be worried about that, so we are getting rid of them. Which is a whole endeavor because they have a lot of books on top of them as well. So, removing from my shelves at this point in time, Killing Commandatory by Haruki Murakami, of course. Desire, which is a collection of like 4 short stories or something like that. The one that I'm most hesitant about, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. South of the Border, what I talk about when I talk about running, The Strange Library, Sputnik Sweetheart, and Hard-Boiled Wonderland in the End of the World. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Murakamis off of these shelves, which I am very happy about because it just means more space for what is basically the thing that gets added to this shelf quite frequently, which is translated literature, especially Asian translated literature. Which means I can now move these down, or not all of them actually. What you're looking for is in the library, can go on the shelves, because it was kind of like lying on top of my Murakamis, and Greek Lessons by Han Kang, so this is a Korean novel. And then Days at the Murasaki Bookshop I'm also getting rid of because I didn't enjoy that one. Ugh, I am so uncomfortable here. So let's move this troll over. Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, and I have Convenience Store Woman. Sure. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata can go next to it. Then this is actually Spanish language book. I'm really wondering when I'm editing this is gonna look so horrible, all this footage, I'm sure of it. Before the coffee gets cold, I might as well try and get these out from underneath. No, that's just gonna spell disaster. So I have a few cat books here that I think I'm gonna get rid of because I enjoyed them, but not enough. And that is If Cats Disappeared from the World, She and Her Cats, and The Goodbye Cats. Those are going off. The Vegetarian by Han Kang can join Greek Lessons. And then actually while we're at it, I have another Han Kang in this stack. Human Acts can go there as well. Then we have The Housekeeper and the Professor, keeping it. The Guest Cat can also go. Beijing Coma can stay. Tokyo Ueno Station can go. And let's turn these over. The Traveling Cat Chronicles can stay. And then of the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, I'm keeping book 1 and 2, but book 3 and 4, so Before We Say Goodbye and Before Your Memory Fades are leaving. And then Snowflower and the Secret Fan is actually not translated, I don't think so, but it joins the cultural section of Asian literature, I guess. Come on. Okay, and now I need to stretch my legs. Ow. Alright, hello, here I am, upside down again. There are actually 2 more Japanese books here. So there is Lonely Castle in the Mirror and Heaven by Miko Kawakami. I have not enjoyed Heaven as much as I hoped I would, but I am going to hold on to it for a little bit longer. And actually we have another one here, 1,000 Years of Joys and Sorrow by Ai Weiwei, and another Sayaka Murata. So move over. All right, Asian section done. Then we have a few more books in translation. I Who Have Never Known Men. I didn't enjoy it as much as other people have, so I think I'm just going to get rid of it. Part of me wants to give this another go and be like, yeah, maybe it was just me, but you know, like, let's get rid of that attitude. Then we have two Italian ones, The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante and The Leopard by Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa. This edition is where I have the War and Peace that I cannot find in. So this one can go, and then we are going to Spanish language. So first I have Tenders of Flesh by Agustina de Pastorica, which is the only translated into Spanish one I have here. Then we have the Spanish version edition of Las Indignas by Agustina Pastorica, which is coming out in English this month. Then we have Stay. Like Water, oh yeah, I have a separator in here. Like Water for Chocolates. And then we have the Gabriel Garcia Marquez section. So we have 3 of his novels, and of 2 of the 3 I have 2 editions, 2 special editions and 2 regular editions. They are staying. Alright, for these 2 shelves I am not going to be in frame. We're also moving stuff around here. Like this is a Chinese edition of like a Geufje or Tintin comic that I am just going to toss because, you know, I cannot do anything with it. And this is the Chinese edition of Harry Potter Book 7. Which I will never be able to read, but let's hang on to it for no particular reason. But I am moving it down to the bottom shelf, which you will see, for those of you familiar with the Harry Potter spines, that all of my Harry Potters are here. And let's move them over. Stop falling down. Alright. I am still holding on to my Harry Potters, basically for like reread purposes, if I feel the urge to reread certain sections, because I'm very much somebody who rereads like sections of books that I've read from time to time. If I feel the need to reread a certain scene, then they are there. And you know, sentimentality, they were a big part of my childhood, but I do not support J.K. Rowling's views at all. But so this shelf has a lot of Darren Shan books, which are also childhood favorites, which I'm going to hopefully be able to move into this section. I think we will be able to. Nice. That means this whole bottom section is going to be childhood favorites. Nothing is moving out of that shelf at all. But that means that with this shelf I can still do something. I will just leave whatever is on here at the moment on here. These are all fantasy books. None of them are being abandoned at the moment. But like I will probably try to move another section of my library into this one to have all the fantasy in the central bookcase. Alright, we've tackled quite a fair bit on this. I have a huge pile down here, which I'm very happy about. It does not necessarily translate to a ton of space over there, but that's mainly because I moved the Japanese literature ones like from a vertical position to a horizontal position, so I do still have a ton of space on that shelf for adding stuff on a later date. I am temporarily going to move a few books that I have here in the central ones over to that sort of like miscellaneous shelf that we had seen, you know, like so I have people looking into my apartment, which is always very awkward when that happens. Yes, move away please. So we have Sky on Fire, one of the God Eater books, House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, and The Will of the Many. Then I'm just temporarily moving on to this one. We'll do some sort of a reorder with that shelf later, I'm sure. But let's tackle first the one at the top there, which is also pretty inconvenient because I cannot reach it because of my shoulders. So let me go and get a chair. All right. Okay. I'll have to do that barefoot because otherwise I'm just gonna fall off. All right. Removing from here The House of Doors by Tan Twang En. I really enjoyed this one, but I'm never gonna reread it. The Daughters of Isdihar. Enjoyed it quite fine, but I have no inclination to continue with this one or to reread it. The Princess Bride. Yeah, I didn't really get much out of this book. I do enjoy the movie. Then we have a few that can stay. Augustus by John Williams can go, but Stoner is definitely staying because that's one of my favorite books. Then staying. Alright, 4 that I shall be removing. And the whole shelf is falling behind me. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Formative book for me, but when I reread it a few years ago, I was just like, okay, this is not really what I like at all anymore. Fall on Your Knees by Anne-Marie MacDonald. I remember absolutely loving this book when I read it, but I don't remember anything about it. I will not be rereading it, so it can go. Skin by E.M. Reapy. I did really enjoy this one, but I will not be rereading it, so I'm not holding on to it. The Emperor's Babe. I don't think I really understood this one or appreciated this one, but in any case I will not be rereading it, so it will also go. Unhaul. I would love to say that I'm one of the people who understands this book and who likes this book, but let's stop kidding myself. I'm not one of those people. So then we have Swing Time by Zadie Smith. I did really enjoy this one, but I will not be rereading it. Same for Girl, Woman, Other. Did really think that this one deserved the win, but it isn't one that I will be picking up again. And then Five People You Meet in Heaven is one of those books that really formed me as a reader and as a person, but that I just think doesn't reflect my reading taste anymore. Which means top shelf is done and it's basically reduced in half. Stay. All right. I think I can come down from there. Nice. I will tilt the camera down just a little bit now that, ow, now that we no longer need the top shelf. Sec. All right. Blue shelf. There's a lot of people going around on Sunday, and with this light on me, people can probably see me, because normally you cannot really look into my apartment. And so I'm not entirely sure whether people can see me now, but sometimes people look into my apartment and I'm like, eh. So out of these ones, there are a few books here that I didn't enjoy as much as I wanted to, but I also don't want to give up on them. So I'll keep some of them on there for a potential reread, and maybe in a few years I'm ready to give up on them when that potential reread hasn't happened. But Everything Under by Daisy Johnson is a book that I read for the Booker Prize. It is one of the success stories out of that, but it is also a book that I'm never going to reread, and that I don't have enough like attachment to want to keep. On the blue shelves there's also a few lost fantasy that's definitely gonna have to move, but Sorrow and Bliss did, once again, really think that this one was good, but it's not one that I'm gonna be rereading. We're gonna get rid of a ton here. So, we are getting rid of the Inland Sea book that I did enjoy, but you know, I don't remember what it's about. I'm never gonna reread. Waiting for the Barbarians, had to read it for university. I think it was one of the more successful ones out of it, but I have no attachment to it. I'm never rereading it. The Chimes, I remember being, I might keep this one. I'm keeping it just in case I want to maybe reread it. Maybe I will do like a London vlog at one point in time or something, for which I read books set in London or something like that. Into the Wild, I enjoy this book, but I don't need to reread it, and I don't have like my personality centered around it. Then, let's tackle these four first. Lolita, need I explain? In the Country for Men was good, but not rereading it. Weather by Jenny Offal, enjoyed it, not rereading it. History of Wolves, guess I enjoyed it, don't remember it. Alright, last from this shelf. The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood has survived another cull already, because I already got rid of a lot of Margaret Atwood's books. I did my thesis on Margaret Atwood at that point in time. I read all of her works, but my thesis was centered on one book, which is going to stay on here just for that reason, because I actually didn't like it. But this book had survived previous culls because it was one of the success stories out of my reading of Margaret Atwood, but I don't have any, like, enough sentimentality or appreciation for this book to want to keep it. Perfect by Rachel Joyce. I did really enjoy this one. I don't remember anything about it, and I am not rereading it. Magma by Tora Hjorsteinsdottir. This is a gift from Diana. I did enjoy reading this book. I do think it's a powerful book, but it isn't one that I'm going to be rereading, so I am donating it. And then The Boy in the Striped Pyjama by John Boyne is a book that I did really enjoy. Was really emotional read, but it is also heavily criticized for being a sort of like romanticized vision on what it would be like to live next to one of these camps. And if you want a realistic portrayal of that, then watch the film The Zone of Interest. Alright, I have moved a few from there as well that were like fantasies to that current fantasy shelf that is going to move at some point. Probably not during this video, or like maybe I'll do like a reshuffle and then film a clip for this video still for the end, but I won't like do a live sort of reshuffling of that. So final sort of like general fiction shelf, though there are some Dutch ones at the very bottom. Let's maybe tackle those at this point as well. So I have The Laatkomen van Dimitri Verhulst. It's a fun one, but it's like really short, and will I ever reread this one? I know what it is. So yeah, it can go. Het Huis van de Moskee van Kader Abdullah. I remember really loving this when I read it, but another one that I'm like, will I ever reread this? No. So that one can, it's also got like severe water damage I see now. So probably give it to my mother or something like that. Let's see if she's interested in any of these. It Melts, These is Spit, staying. And then War and Turpentine by Stefan Hermans. I really enjoyed this one as well. I mean, I don't have many Dutch books on my shelves. When I have them, it's only because I really enjoyed them, but I will not be rereading that one. So those three, I will check with my mother if she's interested in any of those. She might actually have some of them already, so if she's interested in any of them, they will go to her. Otherwise, they will also be donated as the rest is. But Smelt van Lise Spitz can go onto the shelf for the time being. This shelf, another fantasy on here to begin with. Those above can stay. I have just gotten those below earlier this year, I think. So I'm due a reread so that I can continue on. Time Traveler's Wife can stay. The corrections, I mean, I will never reread this, right? So the corrections can go. Night Circus, also technically fantasy, of course, can go. Then here, I do think I want to hold on to. This is why it was lying horizontally, because it's too big for this shelf. Let's see, what do we have here? Grief is the Thing with Feathers. I love Lanny by Max Porter, but unfortunately I don't love any of his other works. This is a disability nonfiction, can stay. This is also a nonfiction, and I remember really liking it when I read it, but I don't remember what it is actually about, and I will never reread it. So those can stay. The bottom book here, which was definitely also lying down because it's too big, is The Year of the Flood by Margaret Atwood, can go. Everything is Illuminated can stay. Shy is another one of these Max Porters. Same with The Death of Francis Bacon, another Max Porter. And then The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath can stay. Alright. White books. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest can go. I did really enjoy this, don't get me wrong. And then off of this pile, I will keep everything except for, no, I'll also keep The English Patient, I think. Everything on this shelf that is now there can stay. Which means now, if I am not mistaken, we more or less only have fantasy left on the shelves to tackle. With the exception of some comic books and some young adult that is still on there. Which means that we'll probably be making less progress now. This shelf, for example, will be staying in its entirety. This has Mistress of the Empire, the first book in the Lives of Locke Lamora, which I didn't enjoy the rest of the series, but I did enjoy the first one, so it can definitely stay. The City of Brass series, I could see myself getting rid of that at some point, because I didn't like the final book in the series, but I did enjoy the first two. Rook and Rose trilogy is definitely not moving. Actually, I'm getting a new edition, like the Broken Binding special editions of these, to add on to my shelf, so this will need to move to a shelf where I can have the special editions next to it. Blood Over Bright Haven is definitely staying. And then here we have the Dreamwalker series. I don't think it's called like that. I think it's called something like The Broken World. No, The Ballad of Sir Benthro. This is also staying. And now I am gonna do something that may be somewhat drastic, or that some people might consider drastic, because I am going to be moving some Brandon Sanderson. So yeah, when it comes to the Brandon Sanderson, I am not like throwing them away. They will go into a box. Reason why is just because recent years, so since 2021 or something like that, I've had more of a fail than success rate with Brandon Sanderson's books. So I think the only real win within those years has been Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. And I haven't even continued with Wind and Truth since like it was published. I was reading the weekly installments when they came out, but I wasn't really enjoying the majority of those. I was kind of struggling with it as a whole. And so when it was published and I couldn't immediately get hold of this matchy copy, I was like, you know what, I can wait. I really don't feel the need to pick this up the moment it's published, which, is saying a lot, because Brandon Sanderson I definitely consider to be a favorite author for a very long time. And now there's just like, I look at these two shelves And there are actually probably about more books maybe even that I don't like than there are books that I do like, and that is a problem. We also do have a visitor here for the video at this point in time. Hello, you wanted to join the conversation? The Unhaul? So we are not touching Stormlight Archive, or at least not these editions. They are the editions I want. I want a matching one for Wind and Truth, but here in Belgium we have the UK editions available in the store, and so yeah, I'm not getting those. I am putting the Skyward series in a box, with the exception of Skyward itself. So yeah, I enjoyed Skyward. I was disappointed in its sequel, and then came Cytonic, which I disliked a lot. And Defiant, I don't know, I think I zoned out for most of it. So the Skyward can stay, but honestly, I don't want the other ones on my shelves. But I also am not strong enough to just get rid of them. Final Empire can stay, Elantris can stay, Emperor's Soul can stay, and Warbreaker can stay. And I guess Edge Dancer and Dawnshard can stay as well. Can I make this more of a like... Because I would like to also... why? You are not fitting on this shelf? Seriously? By like a millimeter or what? Fine. So we'll have to move everything onto this shelf, I guess. These Mistborn Era 2 into the box. I dislike you guys. UK editions that I have of The Way of Kings and Rhythm of War. You guys can also go. They are signed, I would think, which is the reason why I have them. Not even true, The Way of Kings is not signed. Rhythm of War maybe? Rhythm of War is signed, and Rhythm of War also has all of my tabs from when I read it. But yeah. And then Arcanum Unbounded can also go into that box. I don't necessarily have anything against Arcanum Unbounded, but you know, like I would only ever reread it if I wanted to reconsole or like consult some of those earlier stories. And so yeah, my mystery fantasy shelf over there could actually already move onto this one, but I think this one has to become like a favorite fantasy shelf. This is to some extent already has some of my favorites, like Mistress of the Empire or something like that, and these four could move on to this one, for example, but I'll have a little bit more of a think on what belongs in this prime spot. Next up, we have a few miscellaneous things here that needed to find. Oh, I didn't even... There's a book hiding behind this that can definitely be unhauled, because I didn't enjoy it, and that is Kings of the Wilds. It's just a huge mess underneath the camera angle now. Bloodguards, I think I'll save until, you know, like I have the sequel. To Shape a Dragon's Breath, I didn't enjoy it all that much, or I was like a little bit disappointed with the tone of it. It was a little bit too distant, I think, in tone, but I do kind of want to hang on to it until it has a potential sequel. Girl from the Sea, a lovely graphic novel, but one I will not be rereading. Stardust Thief, a book that I'm so happy the sequel is finally going to come out this year. And then The First Binding. Do I remember why I hated this book? In part, but not fully. I only remember some issues with misogynistic remarks within the book, but I mainly remember severely struggling. And yeah, I have not picked up the sequel. The sequel is out, I think, but I have no interest in it. At that point in time, I kept it because I was like, yeah, maybe I will try the sequel because, you know, a Silk Road fantasy does sound like something that I would really like. I do like the concept behind this book. But, I mean, let's be fair. it hasn't happened. When the sequel was announced, I was like, I have no interest. When it came out, I was like, I have no interest. Looking at this book on my shelf, I'm like, no, I have no interest. I would even have to like reread the first book in order to go into the sequels. So yeah, no, it ain't happening. So yeah. So we see 3 from that. And what else did we have here? Ah yeah, this was like this shelf did still have some other stuff on it. A Darren Shank, which can go to that bottom shelf that had like childhood stuff on it. Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Didn't enjoy it enough, but A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson I will hang on to. Here we go for an interesting one. We have A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I did really like this book. I cried my eyes out with it. I understand the problems with torture porn that people bring up with it. And I will never be rereading this book, and I don't have like sentimentality to it, or like I don't have this feeling that this needs to belong to my library. This is the greatest book or one of the greatest books that I ever read. Yes, I was very much emotionally invested in it, but it does not need to be part of my library. So it can absolutely go. That is going to fall on the floor. No, lucky. Dragon Teeth by Michael Crichton. I did not enjoy, and I was keeping it on there because at that point in time I was keeping quite a lot of Michael Crichton's works and I was like collecting them. But at this point in time, Michael Crichton, like Brandon Sanderson, is an author in which I've had really good experiences but also really bad experiences. And I also found out that Michael Crichton is actually a climate change denier, so why keep his books on my shelves when I haven't enjoyed them? So Dragon Teeth, bye bye. An Orchestra of Minorities by Chigozie Obioma can stay. That's an absolute amazing book that does not fit on the wide shelf. I mean, these shelves ideally are moving, because I would like the middle to be the fantasy one. Right, what else do I have down here? Yeah. The Black Coast by Mike Brooks, want to continue that series. And then I'm going to move. And then I have 7 books in the Septimus Heap series, which is a children's series, or like a, yeah, it's a middle grade series, I think. I don't think it's young adults. That I really enjoyed when I already was past the age for these types of books, I think. But I'm going to move them down to the bottom shelf. So basically all of my childhood or like all my younger audience books are at the very bottom. And I will also be moving the Anthony Horowitz ones, which are on this shelf, down there with them. So you will not be seeing this at all. So yeah, we are actually done with the middle section of the library. We just have this section left. Alright, so from the very top, I am only going to be removing a few things, if I can grab them. One is Superman, reading for university. I am going to keep the comics that are up there for the time being, but there are some comics up there that might eventually one day also get removed. And then I'm also removing these short stories from his Dark Materials, but I do think that one of them at least I did enjoy, but I'm not actually entirely sure which one it was. I guess it was Once Upon a Time in the North, because I do think that that one is like the one that has the most story to it, so I might keep that one. And what we will also do with those is see if I can try and move my Dutch editions next to it. That's gonna be tight fit, I don't think. Oh, that's so difficult for my shoulder. I need the chair. Oh, quite a workout, and I still have more than 2,000 steps to take today. That is not going to happen. Why are you stuck like glue to that Harry Potter? Move. Aha! Just about. This is tiring work. Now, while I'm up here, I might as well move these Anthony Horowitzes down. Struggle bus. Oh. Alright. As indicated, these Anthony Horowitzes are going to go down to live with the Septimus Heaps. So this is the Gruesome Great series and part of the Alex Rider series. At some point, there were just so many cover changes for the Alex Rider series that I stopped getting them, and then I just like grew out of them, you know, like then I just wasn't interested in continuing that series anymore. But they do hold sentiment, and they are books where occasionally I will feel like the urge to reread certain passages in them. So we are not ready to just let them go. Alright, that works out perfect. Alright. Yeah. When is this workout over, guys? We're almost there in terms of the elimination in any case. Don't kill me, guys. Yeah, fall over, why don't you? I'm getting rid of the Bear and the Nightingale trilogy. I liked book 1, but not afterwards, and I never liked book 1 enough to say that I would need to hold on to them. Sorry. Chorus of Dragons cannot go. Darker Shade of Magic can go. Poppy War needs to stay. Yumi, Seventh Perfection, Blade itself can go. I wish I could say that the Wise Man's Fear can go, but as long as there is still a possibility for Patrick Rothfuss to continue this series and potentially write a book that I love as much as I love The Name of the Wind, I guess we'll hang on to it. Lord of the Rings can stay, The Last Unicorn can stay. I don't know why this sleeve is here when my other sleeves are there, and why this edition of The Last Unicorn is here and not with the other edition. I do know why, but since we removed the book, now it can fit. And stay. Staying, 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 staying. Everything is staying. And then on the final shelf, I'm gonna get rid definitely of the Jasmine Throne. I was holding on to this in hope that I would love the sequel, because there were elements of book 1 that have worked for me, but unfortunately the sequel did not work for me. I DNF'd the sequel, so the Jasmine Throne can go as well. And actually, this one needs to retire because it's no longer the Year of the Dragon. I have to make the snake one and replace this. But actually, I might, why not? I'll get rid of Priory of the Orange Tree. It had potential and I wanted to like it, but the segment that I was most interested in was like the Oriental Society, and we did almost nothing with that. And then we might also be getting rid of the Hunger Games. I am not, like, I didn't grow up with the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games came out when I was already at university. I did read them, I did enjoy them, but I didn't, like I don't have any nostalgia for it, let me say it like that. It is informative to my reading taste. I don't have any nostalgia for it. It isn't one of my favorites from that time period neither, so I can easily get rid of it. There is like no part of me that resists getting rid of these books. So yeah, that's an easy tell to the fact that it should just leave. Which means that we do have a lot of free space on these shelves right now. But I also have a huge pile standing over there on my table, which will fill at least one more shelf that is currently empty. So we will still have empty space on these shelves, which I'm very happy about, but it's definitely not going to be as much as currently is empty on these shelves. But so yeah, I will do that off camera, because you know there's no way that I'm giving you guys an aesthetic view of these things, of these switching around. So I'll do that off camera, and then I'll try to give some sort of an impression of what it looks like at the end.